Hello everyone and welcome to another Reading with Barry video. Today we are looking at an autobiography actually. It is Patrick Stewart, and before you ask, the two of us are not closely related. Stewart goes for, or was rather, he inherited the W spelling as opposed to my UART spelling. So just in case anyone wants to go there, because I find people are fascinated by both of my names, usually natives. There was a man in a hospital, a healthcare assistant, who was obsessed with Barry Scott from the Sillet Bang adverts, and Scott is not my surname, as you now realise if you did not know already. Stewart is my surname, but he made me feel guilty. He was so infuriated with the advert. He was taking it out on me, and I was pleading with him to understand that that's not even my surname. We share the same first name, and the guy is probably an actor, a struggling actor, if he has to appear on such adverts. To be fair, but we all struggle. We all have low points in our career. Completely true, those words that I speak. But I do not endorse the Sillet Bang adverts. I just want to seize this opportunity. I have no idea if they still go. I do not have a television, but I've not seen them on YouTube. So in case you're wondering what is behind me, it is called a monitor. So that was not a deception. I do not have a television. And that belongs to my company Reachface, so that's not my personal monitor anyway. But the point is, I do not endorse. I have never. I want to make it clear for the historical record, for the legal record, for the moral, for the ethical record, for the political record, for the advertising standards industry record, that I have never endorsed and never will endorse the Sillet Bang adverts, at least the ones with that annoying over the top Barry Scott. That's probably not even his real name. He's an actor. So I just wanted to make that clear. I do not endorse those. I'm the greatest victim here. I get people coming to me as though even if it were me on the advert, how can I tell the networks to stop airing what they've been paid to air? So I have no influence. They're still coming to me with your complaints. I'm the victim here. Anyway, he is a as he brings down the tribe of Barrys that exist around the world. He has been outcast from the Barry society. So anyway, we do share a surname but a different spelling. Patrick Stewart, you may know from Star Trek: Next Generation, the much newer series, a sort of spiritual successor called Picard. He did appear in Star Trek Deep Space Nine briefly before handing over the reins, making way for Benjamin Sisko, played by Avery Brooks, to take centre stage for the space station themed show, one of my favourite shows ever, alongside Babylon 5, of course. And the title is Making It So, a memoir. So Making It So is a common phrase on Star Trek, make it so, engage, and all of that. So, and this was actually released, I think, less than 5 years ago, I'm pretty sure, but we will look at the date in a moment. £25 was the original price. I kept seeing it at the works, probably half price. It was getting cheaper, but I ended up buying this from Amazon. I may have been able to get it cheaper from eBay, but without the aid of vouchers anyway. But I had a voucher maybe from my Amazon Barclaycard or from something else, some other scheme, maybe from Nielsen, where you scan your shopping and you get rewarded vouchers, which you can turn into. Can you turn them? No, you cannot. I'm not sure if you can turn them into Amazon vouchers. You could turn them into Argos vouchers. I did that once, but I'm not sure if they have Amazon as an option. Anyway, I somehow ended up with an Amazon voucher. So that's obviously heavily discounts the price, but actually I may have got this completely free of charge, even including delivery. So I just like to give a record in case you're curious about how much something cost and during a particular year, what opportunities there were, and so forth. So full price £25. I would have paid less than £5. Maybe it was free of charge. So it has quite a serious tone to. I mean, he has a friendly smile, but there is not necessarily a formality, but professionalism necessarily, but a focus, a refinement, I would say. He carries a refinement, and the backdrop, just clear black, and the font, and even the size of the font, everything looks quite not necessarily serious tone, but refined, well measured, refined, appropriate, well fitting. It's a nice feel to the jacket. And we have a G at the bottom. Then we have the ISBN, of course, available in ebook and audio. And of course, there would be a quote from his dear friend Sir Ian McKellen, and also sometimes correct. In fact, for the new Avengers movie, they are coming back. It has been confirmed. Ian McKellen as Magneto and Charles Xavier as I said Charles Xavier. Patrick Stewart as Charles Xavier. Now, let's see. I think now he has actually become Charles Xavier in my head. Patrick Stewart as it's because obviously I've already said his name, so I was thinking, what's the other name to connect to? But I forgot to backpedal and return to saying Patrick Stewart. So yeah, that will be interesting. I'm hoping that James McAvoy and Michael Fassbender, who play the younger versions of the said characters, will also appear, but it has not been confirmed as far as I know. I've not looked for any news for a little while now, but maybe I'll check later today if I remember. Okay, so Ian McKellen's quote. Patrick's early life is a Dickensian tale of domestic violence and misfortune, transformed by chance and some good folk into the actor internationally admired and loved. He writes as well as he acts, with insight, truth, and passion. Another Stewart triumph. Whoopi Goldberg, who also appeared on Star Trek and Picard as well. There is so much to say about Sir Patrick. He is an amazing actor, great to look at, really funny and up for anything. He is a kind man, compassionate and sensitive. But as you will find when you read the book, his greatest asset as a human being is the fact that he is so completely and unapologetically himself. Michael Chabon? Who is this person? I will have to look them up. I read this book in a state of wonder, not just for the author's gifts as a nuanced storyteller and sharp observer, but for those other remarkable gifts of intelligence, sensitivity, wit, intuition, self-awareness, and elan that were bestowed on him when he came into the world, all of which he has freely shared with us so long and so beautifully, and finished reading in a state of deep gratitude for the gifts and the gift of Patrick Stewart. Jonathan Ames, what a glorious memoir Sir Patrick Stewart has written. His prose elegant and beautiful, diamond-like in its clarity and precision, and his recollections of his life are full of tenderness, insight, candour, and pathos. If he hadn't been so busy all these years being a great actor, delighting us all, he could have been a great writer, and now with this book, he is one. So yeah, nice black background, obviously with the white contrasting, the usual setup. Oh, we have a quote from William Shakespeare, of course we would. All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances, and one man in his time plays many parts. William Shakespeare. Yeah, I have my own version of that I repeat quite a bit, and I like William Shakespeare's life is but a walking shadow, a poor player that frets and struts its hour upon the stage, and then is heard no more. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. That's one I quote quite a bit as well. From his acclaimed stage triumphs to his legendary on-screen work, Sir Patrick Stewart has captivated audiences around the world and across multiple generations in a career spanning 6 decades, with his indelible command of stage and screen, I do agree. No other British working actor enjoys such career verity, universal respect and unending popularity as witnessed through his seminal roles, whether as Captain Jean-Luc Picard of Star Trek fame, Professor Charles Xavier of Marvel's X-Men hit film franchise, his more than 40 years as part of the Royal Shakespeare Company, and in such critically lauded roles for Hamlet and The Tempest on the West End and Broadway, his unforgettable one-man show adapted from Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol, or his comedic work in American Dad, Ted, Extras and Blunt's Talk, among many others. Now he presents his long-awaited memoir, Making It So, a revealing portrait of a driven artist whose astonishing life, from his humble and hard-scrabble beginnings in Yorkshire to the dizzying heights of Hollywood and worldwide acclaim, proves a story as exuberant, definitive and enduring as the author himself. Just as I was reading the line or two above Yorkshire, and I saw Yorkshire, a riot, New Yorkshire was a little ahead, I suddenly remember, it suddenly came back to me that there was this program, I'm sure not exclusive to YouTube, but I saw it on YouTube, not having a television. I cannot remember who the host was or the driver, but anyway, he would have famous individuals in his taxi, and I think he would drive them to where they grew up or something. And I presume he took Patrick to somewhere within Yorkshire, but I vaguely remember it now. I will have to try and track down a video. If I can find it, I'll what's the link in the description so you can watch it too. But yeah, that was interesting. And I know a little about his life. Yes, he did have a very humble upbringing, and I think it alluded. I think during a convention, it alluded to having suffered abuse. Because I think he was also he starting a charity or involved in some charity. And I'm not giving any secrets away, of course, and I say that the charities we sponsor, with a particular focus, usually, of course, relates to something we've experienced ourselves or having looked after a loved one. So I was already, aware that perhaps he'd been through something. So it's upsetting to learn, but obviously it is something that has already happened that he's trying to do some good with by raising awareness of abuse, and I'm sure he's involved with certain charities. So we have a blank page, another blank page, making it so. There we go. Every time that I think it is a motorcycle goes by, I can hear the startup of Mario Kart 64 when there's a sudden engine sound. I swear someone keeps replaying Mario Kart 64 outside again and again, but actually, for real. So they're lobbing banana skins at cars and things, which is very dangerous. Do not do that, children and adults, please. Gallery Books UK, hence the G insignia on the spine. It's a nice, simple font. First published in the United States by Gallery Books and imprint 2023. First published in Great Britain by Gallery Books again, 2023. Copyrights Cam Lane Incorporation. Patrick Stewart is the author. Simon & Schuster, but where's the... there we go. Interior design by Davina Mock Maniscalco. And now we have one of my favourite parts of dedication. To the memory of Ruth Ryan Owen and Cecil Dorman, inspirational teachers not only of English literature but also of acting and the meaning of theatre. Yes, because if you have not gathered already, he has a very strong theatre background. They made mention earlier of the Royal Shakespeare Company, but just in case you're not too familiar with Patrick Stewart. But if you know anything about him, you probably know that you can probably pick it up quite well from his manner and some of his performances and the type of things he sometimes appears in. Another quote from William Shakespeare, all's well that ends well. Another thing I like about Patrick Stewart is love for William Shakespeare, one of the greatest writers of our time. Well, I'm tempted to say that because in my mind it's still fresh, but of yesteryear's time. But since the dawn of humanity, it's one of the greatest writers. Very different to J.R.R. Tolkien, but equals in something where they have gone in completely different directions, about heavyweights, shall we say. So William Shakespeare's All's Well That Ends Well quote: "The web of our life is of a mingled yarn, good and ill together. Our virtues would be proud if our faults wit them not, and our crimes would despair if they were not cherished by our virtues." Awesome. And then we have the contents. Chapter 1, up to chapter 17 on one page, and then chapter 25. So we have more than 400 pages. It is a bit of a meatier book than some. I mean, that's fine. You can, especially with autobiographies, you need to only write what feels natural and you're comfortable with. But yeah, we have a good amount of pages to go through. Almost 450. Can I get away with reading this without my glasses? Do you know what? The font size isn't too bad, so I think I might be able to. Another bonus. Thank you, Patrick, or whoever decided the font size for this hardback. But I suppose it's standard font size hardbacks. We called it to bottom field, never wondering where, in relation to bottom, to middle field, and to top field might be. Reflections of this kind were pointless in our working class corner of northern England, not just to us kids, but to the whole community. They led you nowhere, and had you been foolish enough to articulate them aloud, you'd have been given a belt round the ear and a lecture. Who the bloody hell does thou think thou art, asking stupid bloody questions like that? She wants to get a grip, lad. All of us lads lived either on Cam Lane or the street with which it intersected, Towngate. Enough mystery in those names alone to attract several earbells. What the heck did Cam mean? I had no idea then, but I have since learned that the word is English of Norman ancestry, a habitational name for someone from the French city of Caen. Habitational. The mere utterance of such a mildly erudite word would have got me kicked off to bed without any supper. And what about Towngate? There was no proper town or gates to be seen anywhere. It was a little cobbled lane with a short row of houses and, behind them, a triangular lot with houses on two sides. Like the dwellings on Cam Lane, these houses were small and austere, mostly one up, one down. Those of us privileged to live on Cam Lane looked down upon the Towngate kids because, compared to us, they appear slovenly and their environment's coarser. There always seems to be a lot of yelling coming from that direction. Nevertheless, two of my friends lived there. My pal Fred's family was so hard up that he wore Wellington boots to school without socks every season of the year. Mirfield, my hometown, sits in what was known as the West Riding of Yorkshire, the westernmost subdivision of Yorkshire, the United Kingdom's largest county. People who know me from my stage work or as Star Trek's Captain Jean-Luc Picard are often surprised to learn that I come from the north of England. I often have to explain to American friends that the north, as we call it, is analogous to the industrial Rust Belt in the United States, blue-collar and tough, with cultures and attitudes distinct from the snootier South and London in particular. During my childhood, Mirfield had a population of around 9,000. Along the river stood several weaving sheds, a humble term for what were, in fact, textile mills that rose 4 or 5 stories high. My mother, Gladys, worked in one of them. The rest of our local economy was agricultural, with farms that grew corn, wheat, Brussels sprouts, and cow. This cow was not destined for fancy salads. It was grown solely to feed livestock, which must have been why the Mirfield cows always looked so healthy. Their milk was delivered not in cartons or bottles, but in large pails on the rickety carts drawn by an old horse. The dairyman ladled the milk by hand into my mother's large kitchen jug. It was often still a little warm when it arrived, and it was delicious. I don't believe pasteurization was a part of the process. To Bottom Field, my refuge, was one of several fields in the area that were left unplanted, reserved for occasional use by grazing cattle and sheep. This field was also the site of parish church festivals, summer bring and buy sales, brass band concerts, and football and cricket matches. In September 1945, when I was 5 years old, it was where the town's adults held a VE, Victory in Europe, picnic celebration for us children. In certain corners of the bottom field, the grass grew tall. One of my private pleasures was to lie on my back among this grass and watch the clouds drift across the sky. At times they formed recognizable shapes, animals, castles, sailing ships, mountains. These were a marvellous tickler of my imagination and afternoon dreams. I had many flying dreams. I loved them. All I had to do to get airborne was gently flap my arms up and down. I would rise slowly and vertically, higher and higher, never fearful, until I reached a point where I manoeuvred myself into horizontal position. From there I would swoop down, levelling out and flying fast just above the ground. Then I'd suddenly lift my head and climb back up again until I was flying between the clouds. For some reason, I never went above the clouds in these dreams. Maybe this was because Mirfield boys like me weren't expected to have lofty ambitions. Certainly none that would ever take me into outer space. I was born on the 13th of July 1940 on a Saturday afternoon around 5 o'clock. My father was away at war. My arrival was slightly delayed because my mother's midwife, having examined my mother that morning, decided that I was not yet ready to appear and declared that she was going to film a matinee at the Vale Cinema, half a mile away in the centre of Mirfield. But not long after the midwife's departure, my mother's water broke and I was on my way. I suspect that, having heard the midwife say that she was going to the pictures, I had decided that I wanted to know what film she was seeing, who was in it and who directed it. A neighbour of my mam's volunteered to go to the cinema to fetch the midwife, but my mother, a kindly soul who loved the pictures, refused this offer, saying that she could hang on until the midwife got back. So there I was, eager to get out, but delayed by my mother's determination to let the midwife enjoy her film until the end. I like to think that it was then, patiently waiting in the birth canal, that I came to understand that films were important, and that acting was to be the main purpose of my life, that is, as soon as it could get started. In any event, my mother and I held on. The midwife arrived in due time, and out I came. Not exactly camera ready, but after a slap on the bottom and a quick hosing down, I was ready for my close-up. I was named after my father, sort of. Though his given name was Alfred, his army buddies called him Pat. This was because he had a temper, and where I grew up, throwing a paddy was slang and an anti-Irish slur for blowing your top. On account of my father being English rather than Irish, Paddy got anglicised to Pat. He embraced the nickname. Before he went away to war in 1939, he instructed my pregnant mother to name me Patricia if I was a girl and Patrick if I was a boy. Though he was a stranger to me in my early life, I learned that my father was a fierce, formidable man. In the 1920s and 30s, he served in India as a member of the King's Own Yorkshire Light Infantry, the Coils, as they were known. He rose in rank from private to sergeant, earning a row of ribbons that he wore proudly on his chest. By the time of Britain's entrance to World War II, he was already in his 40s, but nonetheless an eager founding member of the British Army's esteemed parachute regiment. Though he was arguably too old to be jumping out of aeroplanes, the regiment used my father's age to their advantage as a recruiting tool. He had a small, defiant moustache and, like all the men in my family, a prematurely bald head. The recruiting officer would have Dad stand beside him. At a crucial moment in his recruiting speech, he would nod at Dad, who then ripped off his red beret to reveal his hairless pate. The officer scornfully addressed the young soldiers, yelling at them, "What's wrong with you lot? If an old man like this can jump out of planes, shouldn't you be doing it as well? Or are you all too lily-livered?" It worked. The conscripts queued up to become clones of my father, Sergeant Stewart. Years later, my father explained to me why the soldiers in the airborne divisions were such outstanding fighters. Twice during the war, he had jumped under fire into German-held territory. Every soldier who boarded a transport plane was initially fearful, he said, but once they survived the experience of jumping out and their parachutes opening, they became utterly fearless. Dad said he had heard men singing and whistling, playfully calling out to their fellow parachutists as they floated through the air, and those who made it safely to the earth, freeing themselves of their parachutes without getting shot, became unstoppable warriors. Well, after hearing this, I promised myself that I would also become a parachutist. Like my father, I too would boldly see the clouds from above. The only difference was that I would never have to worry about being shot at as I floated down. I was downright impatient for this experience as a boy, but somehow it just hasn't happened. Not long ago I read a news story about an 80-year-old grandmother who jumped out of a plane while tethered to an experienced parachutist. She landed safely on the ground and had the time of her life. Good for her, but what I've come to realise is that I prefer to live in my dreams. My father did not live long enough to see me become Captain Jean-Luc Picard. I have often wondered what he would have made of Star Trek The Next Generation, the spectacle of his son who strongly resembled him and was 46 years old when cast, commanding an interplanetary spacecraft. Would he have been proud? Would he have wanted to have been aboard the Starship Enterprise, standing over my shoulder, nudging me when the moment came for Captain Picard to say engage? In fact, he was very much with me, but it would take me years to comprehend this. My wife, Sunny, loves to tell friends that I had a Victorian childhood. In many respects, she is right. One of my earliest memories is of sitting atop the steps that led to the yard in front of our house, 17 Cam Lane, and watching the lamplighter lights the gas lamps along our street. He came around every day at dusk. With one pole he opened the hinged pane on the lamp, then he turned on the gas and with another pole lit the flame. I used to shout "hello" to this man, and he would respond with either "Ayoub, look out," or "Eldu, how are you?" How much more Dickensian can you get? We spoke with heavy northern accents, in a Yorkshire dialect nearly incomprehensible to Londoners, let alone Americans. Hello was rendered in our tongue as "Eldu," nothing was nout. The window was twinder, leave me alone was go off. If I wanted to ask a pal to come out to play, I would say to him, "At a lakin at." Atta descended from "art thou," meant "are you." Lakin is a very old word for playing. In Shakespeare's day, actors were sometimes called lakers. At is out. Our house, and 4 others just like it, were arranged around an elevated yard set back from the street. It was 8 steps to the top, a number I clearly remember from a game my pals and I played, hopping up and down the steps while counting. The yard was a big reticule of crushed cinders and dirt bordered by large slabs of stone in front of each house. In front of each door was a boot scraper to help you get the cinders off the soles of your shoes before you enter the house. I'm still unaccustomed to the American usage of the word yard. Our house in Los Angeles has both a front and a backyards, but these, to me, are more like lovely gardens. Just to the right of my childhood home were two air raid shelters known as Anderson shelters. They must have been put in place right around the time I was born. They were made of corrugated steel and half buried in the ground with curved roofs. These shelters were meant to serve all 5 houses in the area, but I don't recall them ever being used. When the sirens went off, which was a rare occurrence, we hurried across the road in our pyjamas and dressing gowns to the big stone cellar of my Auntie Annie's house. The only function the Andersons ever served for me was as a private spot for an innocuous age 9 kiss and cuddle with a girl. It's not quite private enough. One afternoon, as I was taking shelter, as it were, with my female friend, our moment of intimacy was interrupted by our next-door neighbour, Lizzie Dixon. Lizzie was an otherwise kind woman who, like my mother, worked in the reeving sheds, as did her husband, Gilbert. She just happened to poke her head through the shelter's opening at an inopportune moment. When she caught sight of what this girl and I were up to, Lizzie told us off in no uncertain terms. To her credit, she never grasped on us to our parents. Okay, I'm going to have to leave it there at page 7. There are 29 or so pages, which will not take long to read, but I've got loads of other books to go through, and also I need to get something to eat because I've not eaten. It's just approaching afternoon, so I need to suffer. And I apologise, I should have got my glasses. I think, although they would have given me a headache as I'm still adjusting to them, but some of the words are starting to look a bit blurry, but I think that's the hunger. I think that's hunger pain. So I said yesterday I need to eat before I start making these videos, but I just I was eager to get started. So yeah, quite I mean, that is not even the full chapter 1, as I say, but already we're looking at his humble roots in Yorkshire. He made mention of Anderson shelters. I do remember them from school, those whatever they were called, TGP textbooks or something. We used to read about Anderson shelters, so that's always in my mind. I do remember. Before anyone says no, I'm not old enough to remember them, so I've never actually seen one. Anyone who tells you otherwise is outright lying. I'm not that old. I've never seen an Anderson shelter, but I do know of them from the history books, from the historical reference that we are afforded in these times. He has already touched on Star Trek twice, and he answered my question. I was thinking, what did your parents think about Star Trek? And he's already said that his father did not live long enough to see him become the new captain of a Enterprise. Enterprise D it was first, wasn't it? Then D was destroyed in Star Trek, the one where William Shatner appeared, Star Trek Generations, wasn't it? And then Enterprise E was the next one he captained. So now my ears actually. I need to tuck my ear in. I apologise. I need to tuck my ear in because my hair's not growing back sufficiently to lift my cap up. So it's attacking my. I'm genuinely getting the earache. Sorry, that was really distracting. Only this ear, only that ear for some reason. The other one's tucked in. That's why. There we go. So I need to tuck my ears in, not to turn a phrase I ever thought I would be uttering in any context or circumstance. But never mind. You have a new adventure every day for sure. So in today's diary entry, I was reading Patrick Stewart's autobiography, then I tucked my ears in, tucked them into bed, ready for sleep. But it will be really interesting. I have some other books to read first, but as soon as possible, I will read some more, and that will be interesting for sure. I'm sure there will be a lot about Ian McKellen, of course. And so the X-Men movies, I'm sure he'll touch upon, but hopefully a lot about his life that we do not know about, because you may not have seen the movies, but they are up for grabs, DVD, Blu-ray, and other opportunities, I'm sure, streaming sites, television networks. So I'm hoping for some, there certainly will be a lot of news stuff, a lot about his upbringing, and what's got him into acting. I knew where he was going as soon as he said the midwife was going to perform in the matinee. I thought, how fitting. That's interesting. And his mother refused to disturb her so that she could enjoy the play, which is some commitment when she's about to give birth to Patrick Stewart. And yeah, that reminds me, I'm not sure if I knew this, that if he had been a girl, so to speak, he would have been Patricia, which makes sense if you're going for direct counterparts of a sort, and Patrick for a male boy. So it could have been Patricia Stewart, captain of the Enterprise. Engage. Yeah, I wonder, does Patrick have children? Did he stand over his partner when she's about to give birth and say, engage the contraction? Sorry, I'm just, that would be quite funny. As a sort of pep talk to help her to add some comedy, sort of, no doubt, very, very painful proceedings. Maximum warp. No, we do not want maximum warp the baby with calf flying out. What do they call it? I was watching Deep Space Nine on it yesterday. What do they call it? Not the thrusters, but when they're moving at non-warp speed, sorry, sleep deprivation. Sorry, I've had about 4 or 5 hours sleep, so I'm in danger of nodding off. So I apologise if I'm not making any sense and I'm repeating myself. I'm very sleep deprived, but that will be really interesting. I might actually, in between reading my other books, I might read some more today, tonight maybe, to help me sleep. He was making mention of his loss of hair, being bald like his father, and when he was talking about his father, helping the troops, being there for promotional events or what have you. I instantly imagined Patrick Stewart, and then I was telling myself off, no, this is his father, not Patrick Stewart. They are not going to look completely alike, but you're trying to imagine what his father would have looked like, and then he goes on to say, "Oh, I look just like my father." So perhaps that is a quite an accurate image. We do have some photos I can see already. There's with Ian McKellen. Can you see? What the heck is going on there? A rehearsal room for Anthony and Cleopatra. My treasure Jaguar. That's what car he has. He probably has multiple. But it's one of them. That's a nice car, I suppose. Yes, and Locutus of Borg. Locutus of Borg from The Next Generation. By now we have the crew from one of the movies, because those were DS9 era costumes, suits. I really feel it is sad that Miles O'Brien, aka Colin Meaney, was never in any of the movies. The Chief is such a great character. But that's a shame. But yeah, with some older photos. There we go. Me at 16 months old, around 1941. There we go. Patrick with hair as a 16th month old child. Wow, wow. When he was mentioning the gaslights, he made mention of those old, again, I was not old enough to see them, but that's why it's so fascinating. It's something I never observed, the old gas lamps. I remember reading about them in books, and it's interesting to actually hear from someone who obviously actually was there when we still had them. I'm not sure about my pounds. Maybe my father might have mentioned. No, my father would not have been old enough. When did they go? When precisely did they go out? I'll have to research and get educated. Because it's one of those things, it's going to be a gradual process as people start adjusting to light bulbs, whatever. But then obviously there's that point when no one has gas lamps. Like today, it'd be something that would cost a few £100 on eBay because it is a historical item. When did, let's see, UK, Russia, Russia is not UK. I think Vladimir Putin might wish for it to be, but no, we are not Russia. Russia is Russia doing its thing. We are making our own mistakes for sure. There's no, I would not deny that. We are definitely gas lamps. 1800s. No, Patrick Steele's not born in the 1800s. They clearly persisted beyond. Yanni was talking about how people say he had a very Victorian childhood. When did gas lamps? Not when did Gandalf? That's another Ian McKellen character. When did gas lamps stop being used? From the 1950s, so probably my parents would not have seen them, I suppose. UK for a general. No, I do not want to I'm sorry, I do not want artificial intelligence, thank you very much. There's nothing intelligent about it. It's embedded everywhere in search engines, operating systems. You cannot escape it, and it slows down processes, so you have to pay for ever more expensive technology. I just want a basic search engine. Is that too much to ask for? My rant is over. You can uncover your ears. Gas street lamps are called, oh gosh, it's an AI overview, but they're pulling from different sources, so we can probably the sources can be trusted, hopefully. Gas street lamps in the UK were largely replaced by electricity in the 1950s and 1960s, with a transition essentially completed by 1968. Oh, okay, so maybe my parents would have seen some, as they were around then for sure. That's 1 year before the moon landing, of the first moon landing. Though the last lingering gas lamps were removed for service in 1975. Oh, so there were a few still knocking around in the 70s. No, I was not born then. Stop it. You behave, or I will block you from all of my channels, every single one of them. I was not born then. I was born in the early 90s, we will say. That's the truth. But I was going to say early 2000s, but no. That would be impossible. I have a niece who was born in the 2000s. I suppose that could somehow be possible, but knowing her age, that would be impossible. So yeah, I was born in the early 90s. I remember well before Pokemon. How many people can say that now? I remember a pre-Pokemon world. It was a dark and terrible world, dark and scary, full of horror. And then Pokemon came along, and with these cute, chubby characters. While most homes switched to electric lighting between the 1890s and 1920s, so already, even from the 1890s, there was quite a push for electricity. I wonder how affordable, as in how unaffordable it would have been. And again, that would have kept people with the older technology, which is how it normally works, of course. You have to be a rich pioneer to be able to afford it. Then it becomes more and more affordable, and companies can purchase the parts more wholesale and drop the price for customers. And the infrastructure starts to become reinforced. I wonder if there were any government grants. It's something we take for granted. No, pun intended, take for granted with, how many, again, I did not ask for this amount of plug sockets, but it's just an example. There are at least 8 plug sockets in this bedroom, at least 8. I do not need 8. They're convenient. 2 are hidden behind my bed, so they're always out of reach, but actually, no, there's 12. 10, sorry. No, there might be some behind my drawer. There probably, I would not be surprised, but 2, 4, 2, 4, 8. 8, no, there are 8. Yeah, I did count. That's other set behind me. And obviously, you can have extension leads. I have a surge protective extension lead, so Bobby Jean, we can have even more, but yeah, why would I need? It's convenient, but for when you're moving around and stuff. But I'm not sure if I need 8 plug sockets really, especially with the advent of extension leads. Granted, they can be a trip hazard. The operating gas lamps remain in specific London locations today. Yeah, I suppose there's some sort of museum effort, but surely no one's actually having them attached to a personal. How would you get a supply of? Legally. Oh wait, no, do you? Because I know for chemicals, obviously, understandably, it is all good and proper. You need a license to obtain certain chemicals, particularly when they've been used, thrown at people, so i.e. to abuse and harm them. But gas, is there actually a license for? There must be a license for selling gas. Yeah, of course there is. Yeah, but I'm not sure about gas, how it worked back in the day, because you had some. Oh, wait, what am I saying? Yeah, but you had someone who would go around filling the gas lamps for you, as Patrick was referencing. But now you'd have to do it yourself, and there's this last stronghold, this last company, or in the sole trader who's the sole gas lamp lighter in the country. Here we go. We've got a bit of a local reference. According to Birmingham Live, the final gas street lamp was officially removed in Birmingham on January the 3rd, 1975. I was not born. Surviving examples, Covent Garden for heritage purposes. Reason for switch, I wonder. The transition was driven by advancements in electric lighting, lower maintenance costs and better efficiency compared to gas, according to William Sugg and Co. Lighting. Oh, and here we go, William Sugg History. This seems like a good website focusing on this sort of thing. Excuse my rumbling stomach, I will eat. Can you stop complaining? I will eat in a moment. But first, education. Oh yeah, they seem to have a lot of back. Oh yeah, I recommend this website, williamsughistory.co.uk. I can leave a link in the video description. There's quite a bit going on here. Electric arc lamps have proved to be very unsatisfactory with their very bright but often unstable light, whilst Count von Rohrbeck had discovered that a mixture of chemicals, including some rare earths, would incandesce when heated with a hot flame. Oh yes, of course. This may have extended the life of gas lighting by 50 years. And of course the Blitz, yeah, of course it goes without saying that would have had a big impact, yeah. I suppose, but yeah, as I think they're alluding to, the amount of lights damaged, and with emerging technology indeed emerging, you think to yourself, well, let's just upgrade everything, a bit by bit, of course, but there was an Association of Public Lighting Engineers conference at Harrogate. So this was in 1952. Mr. N. Hudson wrote a paper, Street Lighting and Wise Compromise, in which he forecast a rate at which gas street lighting would be converted to electricity. I feel like my brightness is not up all the way. At first I found, because the screen is naturally illuminated, that it's easier to read in books even without my glasses, but I feel like maybe it is just a gloomy day today, but it's only just turned afternoon and everything seems so dim today. What is going on? Yeah, I would recommend looking at them. There's cooking page, lighting page, heating page, gas utilisation. William Sugg and Co., 1837 to 1969. I see. Again, the year of the moon landing. Well, that's today's video. A bit of education, prompted by Patrick Stewart and his humble origins during the gas lamp days. And I would love to stay and talk more, but I'm also getting really cold. For some reason, it is really cold and somewhat gloomy today. It was pouring with rain yesterday. I pushed myself outside to do some exercise, and it was pouring with rain, terribly pouring. So I did get quite wet just for a few cycles of the park, which is less than 2 minutes away. So, yeah, but my stomach is, my concentration is going, so no more reading. I need to go and get something to eat. So I will disappear, but I hope you enjoy this video. But as you will find when you read the book, his greatest asset as a human being is the fact that he is so completely and But as you will find when you read the book, his greatest asset as a human being is the fact that he is so completely and unapologetically, I can say it today, unapologetically